15 years later, the case may finally be reopening, and Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes might be closer to returning than fans expected. After years of delays, false starts, schedule problems, and endless is-it-still-happening debates, Sherlock Holmes 3 has just received one of its most encouraging updates in a very long time. The script is no longer just an idea floating around Hollywood. A new draft has officially been written. That update comes from writer Chris Brancato, who revealed that he has completed a draft for the long-awaited sequel. Now, that does not mean cameras are rolling tomorrow, and it does not mean Warner Brothers has suddenly locked a release date. But for a movie that has been stuck in development limbo since Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows came out in 2011, even a finished draft feels like a major breakthrough. The reason fans are so excited is simple. Downey's Sherlock Holmes was not just another version of the famous detective. He played Holmes like a brilliant disaster, a man whose mind moved faster than the world around him, but whose emotional life was far messier than he wanted to admit. Add Jude Law's Watson into the mix, and the franchise had something rare: action, mystery, humor, and a friendship that felt genuinely alive. That chemistry is the real reason people still care. The first two Sherlock Holmes movies worked because Downey and Law were not just solving cases together. They were constantly testing each other, annoying each other, saving each other, and somehow making every argument feel like affection in disguise. Their Holmes and Watson had the energy of two people who could not live together, but also could not function apart. That is exactly why Sherlock Holmes 3 has remained such an unfinished obsession for fans. The second movie ended with Holmes secretly surviving his apparent death, leaving Watson to discover the truth in a classic Holmes-style twist. It was the perfect setup for another adventure, but then the years started passing. Downey became even more consumed by Marvel. Jude Law's schedule filled up, directors changed, release dates disappeared. The sequel became one of those Hollywood projects that everyone wanted, but nobody could quite make happen. Now, the script update gives the whole thing fresh life. Brancato's draft suggests the creative side is moving again, even if the business side still needs to catch up. And that is where Robert Downey Jr. comes in. Recently, he joked that the fate of another Sherlock Holmes movie may ultimately depend on his wife and producing partner, Susan Downey. Susan produced the earlier films, and Downey described her as the person with the last word on whether the mystery continues. That makes the situation even more interesting because Team Downey has always seemed protective of the franchise. They know fans want a third film, but they also know that coming back after so many years cannot feel lazy. This cannot just be Holmes and Watson return because nostalgia sells. It needs a reason. It needs a case worthy of the wait. And honestly, that may be the biggest challenge. A third Sherlock Holmes movie arriving now would not be competing with the same movie landscape as 2009 or 2011. Audiences have seen countless detective stories, mystery shows, action franchises, and modern reinventions since then. If Downey and Law return, the movie has to feel like a true continuation, not a delayed leftover from another era. But the long gap could actually help the story. Imagine meeting Holmes and Watson years later, older, sharper in some ways, more damaged in others. Their partnership could have changed, their lives could have moved forward. The case could force them back into the dangerous rhythm they once knew, while also asking whether they can still trust each other the same way. That is the version fans want. Not a reset, not a reboot, a reunion with consequences. The timing is also fascinating because Downey is already returning to another major franchise with Marvel, this time as Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. That means his schedule is packed, and Sherlock Holmes 3 may still have to wait. But it also proves something important. Downey is not against revisiting iconic worlds if the role feels right. He is just choosing carefully. Jude Law has also expressed interest in returning in the past, and Guy Ritchie has continued to be linked to Sherlock projects, including his newer Young Sherlock series. Whether Ritchie directs the third movie or not, the original film's style remains a big part of what fans want back. The slow-motion fight calculations, the grimy London energy, the sharp banter, and that slightly chaotic sense that Holmes is always 3 steps ahead and one bad decision away from disaster. So where does this leave Sherlock Holmes 3? Still not guaranteed, but definitely more alive than it has felt in years. A script exists. The Downeys are still talking about it. Fans still want Downey and Law back together. And after 15 years, that alone feels like a clue worth following. What do you think? Should Robert Downey Jr. return for one final Sherlock Holmes case, or has too much time passed for the sequel to work? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.